My basketball team just traded Jaylen Brown for Paul George and a used condom, and we're watching the death of physical games in real time. It's been no real secret that physical games are kind of going out the window, but as the rightful fears of future ownership come into question here, we are now forced to mull over another question. What does the future hold for gaming, and is it all doom and gloom? Well, in today's video, let's go over all of that. The worsening state of console gaming, why the industry is seemingly trying to move away from physical games at all costs, and also where we go from here. Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls, and we have a lot to mull over. So what's going on? Earlier today, PlayStation put out a new blog post entitled Physical Disc Production Ending in January 2028 for New Games Releasing on PlayStation Consoles. Not exactly a catchy headline. It rolls off the tongue like battery acid.
Oh good. Larval innards.
Normally I would read the entire blog post, but really everything's in the title here. The rest is just corporate PR speak to try to, well, PR speak this all away. But why is this an issue? Especially for someone like me who's predominantly a PC player. I buy almost all of my games digitally anyways. My storefront of choice is Steam almost every time. Well, despite all of that, I am personally not a fan of this decision by Sony. Because while I may not have been the target audience for physical games, a lot of other people were. Even if the modern split between digital and physical games is something like 85%, the remaining percent that is still indulging in physical games, that total number of people is not a small number. But also this furthers a couple of trends I've been noticing that I disagree fundamentally with out of this industry. Number one, consoles have increasingly just become worse PCs that are far more restrictive. The benefits of a locked-off ecosystem are largely going the way of the dodo, and the conveniences that console gaming once brought to the table that were rather tantalizing to so many people are quickly becoming just obsolete. Not just because Steam as a platform is becoming far better and is actively trying to move away from a lot of the issues PC gaming once had for so many people that prefer console gaming, such as an ecosystem that's far more pick up and play with how streamlined Steam and SteamOS have become, how easy it is to use the Steam UI, how easy it is to browse for games, gigantic Steam sales like the one we're in right now, the family plan that Steam now has, the ability to stream to other devices, multiplayer doesn't require a subscription, though it may require you to link to another account, nothing's perfect. And also Discord's right there for communication if you don't want to use the in-game methods or just Steam itself. But now consoles for online play a lot of the time require a subscription. A lot of discs will still require a download, and soon it'll all be downloads for PlayStation and probably Xbox next generation. Or with things like game key cards for Nintendo. PC gaming is becoming more user-friendly, while the benefits of console gaming are just systematically being killed off. And this segues into point number two. One of the main remaining charms of console gaming was the fact you could own a disc of a game. It was no one else's. When you got the disc, it is yours. A company can't come to your house and just take it away from you. This is your property. Many people value that type of ownership, and it's a type of ownership that doesn't exist for most digital gaming. Just earlier with PlayStation, we saw the main issue with digital libraries just reveal itself here. PlayStation will remove hundreds of purchased movies and TV shows from user libraries in September. And while it is unrealistic that something like that could happen for games, stuff like this showcases it can happen. It may not be particularly likely, but the chances aren't zero either. And I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea that some middleman, or because of some expiring license, someone else can come and take my games away. And I understand I sound a little bit hypocritical when I say that because, well, Steam is my predominantly preferred platform. But we also face a bit of reality when it comes to this issue. There's no perfect solution right now. PC, for a wide variety of reasons, is my preferred platform. And it's because of those reasons that I put up basically gambling the idea that Steam won't take my games away. Now, having said that, there's a reason Sony pulled this trigger. There's a reason Xbox is probably going to pull the trigger next gen. Because these companies feel confident that the upside of doing this, going digital only, will be better than the status quo. They believe the backlash they're currently getting is going to be worth it when they come out the other side. That or they massively underestimated the backlash and I just kind of feel that's unlikely. Let's face it, yeah, there are a non-insignificant number of people that still love, buy, and are passionate about physical media. We are in the age of digital domination. Heck, I'm part of that. I'm a PC gamer. Most of PC gaming is going to be digital only. That's just the nature of the platform right now. And it's also the nature of consoles right now as well. Because while the slice of pie that represents physical games is still large, the rest of the pie is way bigger. And it gives them far more control on what you consume, when you're able to consume it, and how long you're able to consume it, and just gives them overall more control than you having ownership of the things you buy. I know that sounds dystopian, but if you give give the companies more ways to assert control, they're going to take it because they are better able to leverage that control and turn it into profit and also put themselves in a position of market dominance. It is a tale as old as time. As unfortunate as it is, we are in an age of convenience. We're just in that. If you give the general population two choices, one gives you ownership and the other's just more convenient and easier, unfortunately, more people are going to go that route. Convenience is king. These companies know that. They understand it. They leverage that. They are willing to provide a more convenient short-term solution because people are willing to sacrifice more and more in favor of that convenience. Physical games take up space. This also just applies to physical media across the board, but it takes up space. You either have to wait for a delivery or go out to get it yourself. Then you're contending with the weather. You're contending with people just being lazy, not wanting to get out of bed or their chair or whatever. That's gas money right there. They have to go in a store. They have to interact with somebody. Oh God, no, not that. Then they have to get back in their car or public transportation, which probably may or may not involve talking and interacting with another person. Go all the way back home and then they can put the disc in. And surprise, surprise, there may still be a download at the end of all of that. A lot of people just aren't going to do that anymore, especially when you can just click a couple of buttons and you're set. Yeah, there are going to be some people who have really bad internet that don't want to rely on downloads whatsoever. But the fact that Sony and PlayStation were still willing to pull this trigger tells me that the chunk of pie they're pursuing is still large and is larger than that slice. Now, it's entirely possible that PlayStation are completely misreading the industry. I don't think they are. The simple unfortunate fact here is, if Sony believed it was disadvantageous to their position in the market, to the act of selling games, by taking away physical disc production, they wouldn't have done this. They believe they are playing it safe here, or they believe they're playing it safe enough that the inevitable hit they're going to receive out of this, they'll be able to brush it off. And it's one of the biggest, most unfortunate realities of gaming. Over the last decade and a half, we have seen this industry erode and just become a worse place because as these companies try to take an inch, they find out people are more than willing to just give them the whole mile and then ask to give them even more. Or maybe sometimes they go too far, like with loot boxes. Oh no, we're actually getting legislative bodies involved now. We messed up. Well, let's no longer do loot boxes. Let's instead do battle passes. Battle passes will work, right? They're either able to just take a whole mile or they try to take 2 miles, realize they're going too far, and then they settle down with only taking 1. At the end of it all though, they got their mile. And sometimes they work their way up. They take a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here. They climb that ladder and eventually they find themselves at the top where they're able to just pull the plug. Too many people don't have pattern recognition. And also there's just not enough people that care about every single issue. I became disillusioned with console gaming long ago. It's why I'm predominantly on PC now. And while I predominantly use Steam on PC, I may sacrifice the concept of ownership when it comes to my gaming library, but there's plenty of other benefits I get by being on PC that I don't get on console. And one of those benefits is multiple storefronts. I don't just have to use Steam. I have options. I don't really use them outside of collecting a free game from Epic every now and then, but I could use Epic Games. Okay, I couldn't even make it out of that one. There is an Xbox app on PC, but even then, PC still has a place that's better than pretty much every other digital service for actual game ownership, GOG. Even if a game vanishes from the GOG storefront, it never leaves your library, exactly as digital ownership ought to be. Someone tried to point out, unless GOG goes out of business someday. Readers added context. GOG games are DRM free, allowing users to download offline backup installers, backup files, and play without GOG servers or internet. If GOG shuts down, users receive at least 60 days notice to download content. If you truly care about ownership and you want to be on PC, you can go to GOG. They may not have everything, but they still have a lot. But when you're in a closed-off ecosystem like a console, of course these console developers aren't going to want you to have used games. They don't get a cut of that because you own the copy, not them. And you see, we can't have that now, can we? Well, actually, maybe we can when it comes to Xbox soon. Tom Warren, Scoop, as Sony gets ready to scrap discs for PlayStation games, Xbox is quietly working on a disc-to-digital feature. It will allow you to digitize a physical game collection. Xbox is testing it internally. Here's how it all works. Discs will still work after they've digitized, and you'll only lose a digital entitlement if you loan the disc to a friend or sell the disc to someone else. Which is kind of funny because one of the main things people thought was driving this push to digital gaming was that developers and console makers wanted to kill out the used game market. and the ability to trade a game to your friend because they didn't get a cut of that. But now seemingly Xbox is trying to make that a feature of digital games. Maybe you could argue this is Xbox trying to find some kind of way to get an advantage over PlayStation and maybe Nintendo, if you forget about how game key cards actually work. But that honestly sounds pretty cool. And it really wouldn't surprise me if we see Xbox trying to do even more things like that in the future to try to find some way to get some kind of advantage and lure people away from either PlayStation to their own hardware or lure people away from Steam to go to the Xbox app. And at this point, I don't know which is the harder task. But this kind of circles back to a larger point I've been trying to make lately, especially on stream. There's a lot to be negative about when it comes to this industry. There's a lot of doom and gloom going around, understandably so. But there are still some silver linings. Maybe they're not all in equal amount, but they do exist. There's also an argument to be made when it comes to PC being better for game preservation than console. Now, on the surface, it makes far more sense that actually owning a physical piece of media would be way better for game preservation than some online service. That only makes sense, right? I mean, after all, I can open this up and there's my disc. Okay, different game, but you get the point. As we talked about before, it's not like Nintendo are gonna come by to take away my physical copy of Xenoblade Chronicles X. Goated game, by the way. But that's not going to happen. And while there is a feeling of reassurance when it comes to owning something physical that absolutely exists, and I get it, because even I feel it. Heck, I feel it for a bunch of other games that I recently got. I got the Xenosaga games on PlayStation 2 and Xenogears on the PlayStation 1 because I wanted to have these games, because Xenoblade and Xeno overall is my favorite game series. I wanted to be able to say, hey, I can play these games whenever I want. I'm not beholden to Square Enix or Bandai Namco to port these games. I don't have to rely on the PS3 storefront to be able to pick up Xenogears. Funnily enough, about the PS3 storefront, yeah, that's going away soon as well. They actually linked that blog post in the same tweet as the one they did for physical discs. But I digress. Yes, there is a feeling of reassurance when it comes to physical games. However, physical media break. They get worn down over time. Something can happen. A fire, a flood, some kind of unfortunate accident. Just withstanding the weathers of time. But when a game exists on PC, and those files are out there, or you're able to rip your own, and you can get those files onto your own hard drive and memory that you own, and you make backups, well then, even if the disk breaks, you have the game itself. You can play it with emulation. I'm not beholden to a company to continue to port it or provide the game in case my copy breaks. So in a really funny way, when you really think about it, PC is also better for game preservation in the really long run. Is there a perfect solution to this? No, you will always be able to find faults or issues when it comes to game preservation with any format of media, whether that be digital, which what I just talked about with PC, or when it comes to actually physical. There are ways to get around it and mitigate it, but you can't account for every possible situation. The point I'm really trying to make here, though, is that if your main concern is game preservation, you can still do that on PC as a platform, and you can arguably do it better, which is kind of another chink in the armor to what we talked about before with consoles feeling like worse PCs nowadays. Now here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on PlayStation moving away from physical games. Does this move the needle for you? Are you going to move away from PlayStation, or have you already? I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And speaking of digital games, the Steam Summer Sale is going on right now, and there are massive sales. Insane discounts. Want to get on the action? Well, I got my recommendations and my tips for what to look out for right here. So go check them out. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe. Have a great day. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.